Hello, everyone. Today we have with us Jimmy Page. Jimmy is the CEO and founder of Inseam Interactive, a San Diego based digital marketing agency specializing in SEO and paid media. Jimmy has a BS in marketing from Penn State and an MBA from San Diego State. Jimmy founded Inseam Interactive 8 years ago, and Inseam Interactive has since grown to over almost around 65 employees. Well, Jimmy, thank you, for doing this with us, and welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
Jimmy, before we dive in, our viewers would love to learn a bit more about you. If you could, tell us your story about what brought you to this specific career path.
Yeah, so born and raised in Pennsylvania for the most part. Today I live in San Diego, which is where our business started. As mentioned, I kind of moved out here, did my MBA out here, started working for a number of different corporations. For the first 5 years of my career, I was kind of working in marketing departments primarily as an analyst. Spent a lot of time right out of college really getting good at utilizing data, learning Excel modeling and other kind of databasing tools, and loved the technical side of marketing. Really saw advantages for my own career and being able to kind of move faster by getting more codified skill sets under my belt faster. So I liked the analyst path. I got to work with a number of different business leaders and CEOs kind of side by side, looking at their decision-making process, helping them to get numbers and data and views of things that would get them to the right place as business decision makers. So I had a lot of great experience kind of sitting next to really smart, awesome people on the corporate side of my career. Right before I started this agency, I spent a few years, went to a company as a broadcast analyst called Provide Commerce, and they owned a bunch of big e-commerce brands like Pro Flowers and Cherry's Berries, Gifts.com. Brands that here in the US, a lot of people would recognize on the e-commerce side of things. Ended up, I had experience kind of building and managing my own sites since college, knew SEO well at the kind of single sites, like very small business level. Moved over to get a ton of experience running SEO programs for those brands, and got to spend a lot of money with hundreds of different agencies in the United States. Everyone that I could find, literally trying different things, had many, many, many millions of dollars to spend on SEO services, and got a firsthand, really fast look at how everyone was doing everything and kind of what was out there here in the US again. And really kind of decided that I wasn't always happy with what was there in 2013, 2014, sort of 2012 to a lesser degree. Google's rolling out a lot of very advanced and expensive algorithms to counter SEO tactics that had worked in the past. Google's always kind of chasing SEOs. Obviously, it's a cat and mouse game, and probably the largest kind of transitionary period that I ever saw, or maybe that existed in the search optimization game, was in that 2012 to 2014 kind of period, where a lot of companies that did, old, sort of very manipulative, of high volume, low quality link building, for example, were going out of business. Like, their ways of doing things just truly weren't working anymore. A lot of very reputable companies and brands were going out of business because they were taken out of the Google index for nefarious SEO tactics. And so I was in an environment where working on big brands here in the US needed to be very low risk, and still needed to be making progress. Got to a spot where I was really struggling to actually spend my budget. And as mentioned, even before that, like, I wasn't happy with what I was getting, I would say. And I had a good concept of how, especially for big brands, most of our clients today are large brands and enterprises. how I could just use basic PR tactics and cleanup and maintenance tactics to get a lot of links. If I had a sizable team of people to do that, wasn't really given the opportunity to do that in house, and those things converged on it being a good time and opportunity for me to kind of leave and try it myself. So those are the origins of our company and sort of where we came from. It started as my consultancy, if you will. I was kind of what today we would call it our organization, an SEO strategist, and built out a first link building team, totally outreach based. We do it differently than I would say most people do it probably. And, from there built out bigger link building teams, content teams, strategy teams, paid media. And today we're very heavy on SEO still, and we do a whole lot of paid search for mid-market brands and enterprises as well. And 8 years of evolution, as you mentioned, we've got about 65 employees today, and work with all kinds of different verticals and clients. A lot of e-commerce, but also a lot of financial services and fintech, health and wellness, education space a bit as well. So we're all over the place.
Well, congratulations for a wonderful journey, and we hope you like all the best from here on as well.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Jimmy, what according to you are the 3 main skills needed to be a successful entrepreneur?
Yeah. So, I mean, skills are skills. Like, I don't know that actually having a tactical skill in the way I would think about it is sort of predictive of your success as an entrepreneur. But I think I picked out a couple of things. I think resilience is probably the number one sort of characteristic. Whether or not you consider that a skill, I don't know. But it in my experience, like you get, to managing a significant number of employees, and that could be internal at a large organization as well. It's not necessarily unique to entrepreneurs, but you really are in a situation where your job becomes kind of dealing with the problems, and you're taking punches every day, and you will inherently have stacked failures when you're undertaking this kind of an endeavor. And so, I think it's really important to, certainly for me, like the biggest journey in my career was getting to a spot through many different mechanisms where I could manage my mental and emotional states through like a lot of really complex stuff happening really fast. So, I just think resilience in general, it's something anyone would tell you. Like, you really have to be able to pick yourself back up and keep pushing forwards. And that kind of ties into my second one, which is you need to sort of have a relentless pursuit of something. Like, for me, it was being independently employed. It was just, since I was a child, wanted to own my own businesses and companies, and want to create significant wealth for myself faster than I would have ever been able to in the corporate world by taking on, I was a type of person that wanted like a lot more risk and responsibility, and control over my own destiny career wise. And, I was able to get some of that at larger companies, but not as quickly as someone like me wants it. And so, I think a lot of good entrepreneurs, you see that, like they're going for something, they've set themselves a goal to sell a company for $1 billion or something. And whatever happens to them, like it just bounces off of them and on the path to achieving whatever that is. So, I think that's a really important thing for people that are in this for a long time and endure through it. I think that's definitely really important. And one of the third things that, there's a lot, I think it's a struggle for me to think through this question, but I think empathy, and I don't mean that in a sense of like, how's everyone feeling and how can I make them feel better today type of sense, but really the ability to constantly 100 times a day, as you're dealing with human beings, put yourself in that other person's shoes, understand, what they're thinking about, what they want, what ultimately is going to look like success for them in today's conversation and longer. It matters a lot for selling. It matters a lot for managing people. It matters a lot for keeping clients and producing great service products. And you're just in a services company, really in any company where you're managing people. There's a ton of like needing to understand where someone else is coming from and being in their shoes. So the people that I know that are some of the most successful entrepreneurs, I think would fit those three things.
Understand. Also, like growing to 65 employees, and your trajectory has been like, always, I mean, you've never been stagnant. Um, how, like, how did you start? By start, I mean, like, do you, because I understand, when you're starting something from a scratch yourself, it would have also been difficult to kind of, like trust people and delegate stuff because, delegation is very important to scale. So how do you take care of that? You build the pillar, pillar people first and then, or do you kind of, do it, while the journey is happening?
Yeah, I mean, it's that's a very good question. I like how you kind of clarify it and qualify it there at the end. And I don't think there's necessarily a right or wrong way.
Hmm.
Probably someone like myself, who when I started this, I had never owned like a significant company. I didn't have, I wasn't interested in raising money and taking on financial risk if I could avoid doing it in the short run. I didn't really have like the experience with that. I didn't come from a finance background where my first thought would be like raise a bunch of capital and sell 25% of this before it exists and that kind of thing. So, I grew organically on this first one. Of course, we did install key people where we needed to, but the first five or so of those all came from working up through roles in existing departments and those kinds of things, building out new departments. Um, so I had a great experience doing it that way, like really organically. Um, it's probably a little bit less financially risky. It's really hard. Like it's not the way that today with where I am, if I was going to do it again, knowing what I know, I would do a lot of things faster, right? And I would probably be a little bit more willing to be less cash flow positive, if you will, early on and sort of make capital investments, just to get further faster, right? But when you've never done it before and you've never seen it, like there's you have a constant hesitancy. You're doubting yourself, like you're trying to reduce risk a lot, where it might not be risky, but you've never seen the other side of it. After you've done it once, I probably would, if I understand your question correctly, do more like building infrastructure early on instead of building infrastructure along the way,
Hmm.
which would have helped us to grow faster and those kinds of things. At the same time, we grew very well. I mean, our growth rates have been fantastic since the beginning of the business, and you have to grow responsibly as an agency. Like you can, if you care about being good, you can really kill that by trying to grow too fast. And so, you need to consider all of those things and how you decide to do it. People, especially on the agency side, one of the great things about it is it doesn't have a ton of capital requirements to start an
Yeah.
agency. And so, if you want to give it a shot, if it's your first time kind of starting a business, um, keep your financial risk minimal. Like, don't take on debt if you don't need to take on debt. Be savvy about that.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Well, thank you so much, for explaining it so well and, like by giving your own example. How do you plan to grow from here? What does the strategy look like?
Yeah. So for us as an agency, let's say there's two ways: you keep growing the things that you do today, or you go wider and you start doing new things. Our next couple of years roadmap really isn't to massively expand into new services. Our focus right now is being the best SEO agency in America. We're also secondarily, hopeful that we can be the best paid search agency in America. We have a smaller paid search team today, but I do think it's one of the best. And I love both of those services. I see a ton of opportunity in doing them better than a lot of the people around us. And today, I believe that certainly on the SEO side, the size of our team, we are the best large SEO agency in America. We just won best large SEO agency in U.S. Search Awards, which is an awesome award that we're really excited about. So we're not looking to start new services. We see a ton of headroom in the existing market space that we play in, and for us, it's really about we're expanding sales and marketing. We started doing that this year. A year and a half ago, as a 45 or so person company, sales and marketing was me. We never did any marketing. We barely had a website. We grew organically really fast by doing really good work and working with big companies. And today, in the last year and a half, we've made a ton of progress on that. We're winning the most important awards in our categories. We're collaborating with some of the best brands in America. We work with SEMrush on creating content, educating people, Moz, Deep Crawl, all kinds of awesome brands this year. So we're going to keep doing more and more of that, making sure that everyone knows if you do want the highest quality, it's us. And we work extremely well with enterprise partners, and we're just going to keep trying to get that message out there. More salespeople, more marketing people, more helping people understand the opportunity of SEO for their enterprises.
I was about to, congratulate you on the US Search Awards. But yeah, I mean, you're definitely doing a great job in SEO, and, wishing you all the best for the paid side as well.
We appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Jimmy, fear can be an obstacle for any entrepreneur, because, I mean, most of the entrepreneurs do have this fear, to start something of their own for the first time. I mean, in your experience, did you was there a fear of any sort? And if yes, how did you overcome that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say I was afraid every day for the first 4 years at least. And we were doing extremely well throughout that period of time, but I'm the kind of person that looks for a way for things to fall apart constantly, right? And I think early on I was probably, because of the nature of this and how prevalent that can be in it, I was probably way too focused on those kinds of things. I didn't actually if I put myself in the shoes of a first day person, I had a full-time job, and I built my consulting practice. I had one full-time employee before I quit my full-time job. So it was making more money than my full-time job was, and fortunately never pulled back from there. So I never got into that situation where I was like, well, I have $20,000 and I'm praying that at some point I get to a spot where that's gonna start going cash flow positive, right? That was never my situation. So I didn't have the financial fears right in front of me, but I'm the kind of person that probably created those fears for myself greatly. And really learning how to manage, stress from thinking about the future and stress from worrying about the past, is a critical piece of what anybody's going to need to do in any of these stressful jobs. So I think if you really are a fear-based person, the kind of person that's very defense and need a lot of structure and ways of preventing things from going wrong, and again, maybe a lack of resilience, which is not a bad thing to kind of know that about yourself. I have a hard time recovering from failure, for example. it may not be for you, right? Like it's not for most people at the end of the day.
Understand. Well, you just said, congratulations for the growth. You have been expanding last 1.5 years. Again, like with the pandemic in picture, like people are working remotely now. So company culture, right? I mean, how do you foster and ensure that company culture is propagated while people are working remotely as well?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a silver bullet on it, and in the spirit of always being honest, if I'm trying to teach people, I think the reality is that you don't like there is an effect that comes from putting people together in the same place and working together that just can't be replicated. It probably won't ever be replicated in like a digital realm, in a remote realm. So, we had an extremely tight, call it culture. I mean, people spending a lot of time together outside of work, company sponsored stuff very regularly, multiple times a month. Everybody kind of eating lunch together and spending a lot of time together. Um, and that was a huge part of what a lot of our employees loved about working here. At the same time, specifically on that point, like at the time, if I asked, would you rather work from home? 90% of people would say, yeah, I'd rather work from home. Right. So it's an interesting dynamic just purely on the remote piece where today in our surveying, we survey our employees regularly. The fact of the matter is, again, 95% of people are more happy with the remote environment. Um, uh, doesn't mean that those 95% of people aren't missing some aspects or many aspects of that culture piece that is frankly just naturally there in a more real way when you're together. So talking about that, understanding it, being frank with each other about it, like, hey, this is part of the future for us. We went from being all in one office to now remote and increasingly distributed outside of San Diego, where we're headquartered. And we're having incredible success at it. It's going to be the future for us. There are huge benefits, particularly on the recruiting side and being able to go wider. So it's not going to go away for us, and we have to talk to everyone about the reality of that. You can do a lot. I mean, we spend a lot of time together on Zoom doing happy hours. There's a whole lot of kind of slacking and just little nuanced things that go on there. We, kind of create micro groups for interests like wine or mindfulness or those kinds of things. And people will meet virtually on a regular basis. But I'm not like, if I'm going to score some of the things that we're doing incredibly well, like I don't think we're at a 10 out of 10 there, and we're getting better and better, but we're learning at it. And I'm excited for watching it evolve into the future. And again, continuing to capitalize on just tons of great benefits that we get from being remote.
I understand. Jimmy, how do you develop and maintain strong client relationships?
So, I mean, I think the honest answer for a lot of people there at the enterprise agency level would be like, well, we try to get great results, and then we put a layer of like, well, we have an awesome relationship, period. Like, we care about each other. We actually spend a lot of time like taking them out to dinner and those kinds of things that if results start to sort of fall apart, or we think quality in work is lacking or whatever, we have some of these softer connections and relationships and that kind of thing. And, I was exposed to that a lot, particularly on the buying side of these things.
Mhm.
Our focus has always been like, be respectful, treat your clients really well, and make sure that they know that like you show up to do the absolute best job that you can possibly do for them every single day. Teach our people like how to be the best strategists and consultants that are out there. And we focus entirely on that. Like other agencies our size are super focused on how to grow their clients and like how to get them to buy new things and how to build services on the side of what they do to get more revenue. We'll regularly tell a client to spend less money if we think that makes sense for them. So, if you're on their team, truly, like if you just follow that guiding light, like pretend that you're employed there and you don't want to lose your job, and you're not going to lose your job if everyone knows that you are trying your absolute hardest, you're smart, and you're an awesome player on their team. Stay focused on those things, and like it's the same thing as having a job when it comes to an agency, right? You're not going to get fired if you're one of the most valuable people in the room in the conversation. If you're think about SEO, if you're like a bolt-on, what's thought of as like a technical best practices thing, it's take it or leave it. It's like, here's one, here's another one, who knows what's the difference. If you as an SEO are a strategic business leader that's saying, hey, there's a $20 million marketing channel here, and you're doing a lot of things around it without thinking about the impact on this channel. Now I'm here to help you do that, and I can do it in a real way, sitting alongside the rest of your strategists. That really helps you be the guy that's not going to be commoditized out or replaced with something else, right? And I think that's what makes good agencies sticky and stick around with their clients.
Right, right, absolutely. As a leader, Jimmy, what would you say was your biggest learning from the pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one. I would say, firstly, and I mentioned a minute ago that I spent a lot of time sort of trying to predict things that might come our way, right, and be ready for those things. So one learning is just that like that exercise actually, all things can happen that are completely unpredictable. Like that never hit my radar. I've got a good friend who, as an example, has just a gigantic ticket brokerage basically, and sells concert tickets. And I've looked at his business in a lot of detail, and I'm like, this is one of the greatest businesses I've ever seen. I don't see like any risk to it. It's ridiculously margin positive. Whole thing, halts to zero in one day. So like those kinds of things do exist in the world, and like I'm not saying that you should necessarily play to them, but psychologically, like you have to know you don't really have control over a lot of this stuff. And I think that was an interesting thing for me to go through and notice and learn. I definitely tactically realized like I always had a philosophy. We have a lot of like some of our services are entry level, link building and those kinds of things. So we have people that are a couple of years out of college, still learning a lot. Because of the nature of our agency and what we do, I always had a perspective like, personally, I would love to work from home all the time, but I just don't think it's right for, again, our mission of being the best at what we do here. And, as a result, I probably without the pandemic never would have opened up like a fully remote option for the entire company. And was kind of forced into looking at that and just hoping that we would be able to sort of maintain what we were before from a deliverability and quality standpoint. And I learned quickly that it was much better, right? Much better for employee happiness. The same or better for kind of output and quality. And again, like instead of having to relocate people to San Diego for the types of people that we need, they're very hard to find, right? And I mean, just being able to look nationwide for who we need, it's been incredible watching those learnings. So I learned a lot from that entire process. We did have a pullback. We had the first kind of dip in the entire history of our business, revenue wise, and we have to be really smart about how to manage the cost side of our business through that, and how to pull out of it and sort of navigate through what were very uncertain times. And so, the tactics of that, the daily, day in, day out, taught me a ton about just how to manage through crisis situations, right? That I hadn't dealt with before.
I understand. So, you already have named a few, tools, but still, like I would like to ask, what are your go-to SEO tools?
Yeah. So, I mean, I will qualify. I haven't actually been practicing SEO like 5, 6 years, something like that. But the tools that we use as an agency for keyword tracking, we love Stat. I'll plug Stat all day. I think it's a fantastic tool versus everything else that's out there in the marketplace. Of course, we use Moz, and as I mentioned, we're a collaborator and partner with them. We're a Moz recommended agency. We love Moz, long relationship with Moz. We use Deep Crawl for technical monitoring. Another company that we really like. We use Majestic. Done a bunch of webinars with Majestic in the past couple of months. They've got an incredibly powerful link graph. And they power many SEO tools that people don't even know about. SEMrush is our go-to competitive research kind of third-party crawl and monitoring tool. So we use it both on the paid media side and in the SEO side. We use Asana and EverHour for kind of project management. We have our own custom project management tools. We have our own custom reporting tools that bring data from a lot of the tools I just mentioned together. So we build custom databases and tools on top of Google BigQuery. Do a lot with Google and Google's kind of data suite. Visualize some with Google Data Studio, a lot with Tableau, particularly on the paid media side of our business. And we tried to find a reporting solution that would work for us. We couldn't even get close to what we needed. And so we have a really sophisticated, amazing kind of out of the box reporting suite that we can plug anyone into that's pulling data from everywhere.
Right. Talking about link building, I know, like you are like, like heavy on link building. How have you seen link building change over the years?
Yeah. And I mean, I guess I spoke to that at a very high level and kind of the origins of our company. I've seen it go from like it would be absurd for you to pay more than say $100 for a link to a period in time where it was like you would never even talk about paying for a link in a general sense. That whole concept was like almost rid, certainly from the, I'll call it real companies side of things, right? Like the corporate side of things. Link building budgets were gone in many cases, right? Like just we're not willing to engage in this anymore because Google created so much fear around it. And again, in that environment, we created what we do, which is link building in exactly the way that Google would ask you to do it. Some of our clients, like Salesforce and TransUnion and giant companies, many of which definitely won't let me say their names while I'm talking about link building. We do it exactly the way that they'd be comfortable with. If you're Salesforce or Walmart or Target or whatever, you might get 300 links to your homepage every day. And 100 of those links would be better going to category pages if you just ask the webmaster, like, hey, there's a better page for this. Tremendous value from an SEO standpoint doing that. And so certainly at the enterprise level, being smart today about not breaking Google's rules. And frankly, Google has backed off massively from the fear and doubt that they were causing 8 years ago. Now they're more like, don't build bad links, but if you do, like, we'll ignore them. Whereas before it was like, we might kill your whole company, like if we think you might even be like thinking about this. So, it's a different environment today, and it kind of swung really far one way and sort of back to the middle, I would say. But for us, it's really about doing it in a way that's sustainable and safe, and not ignoring the fact that it's still by far the biggest impact factor in the algorithm. A lot of agencies that look like ours in terms of our size and client set are really just doing technical SEO and kind of like basic on page, and don't want to talk about link building because they can't do it. It's really hard, or it's risky in the way that they know how to do it. And that's not the right way either, right? You just got to find a way of doing it that's safe and effective.
Right, right, right. Jimmy, guest posts versus niche edits.
Niche edits, I don't even know what that means, to tell you the truth. I have no idea.
Link inserts, basically, instead of like writing like a fresh article.
Gotcha. New posts versus existing posts.
Yeah.
It's hard, right? Because like if you're starting up like an info product site, there's a spectrum of risk that I would be willing to tolerate, right? And it's like in that situation, there's a huge amount of risk. If your domain gets burned, you go to another domain. Like it's not, the risk of it is not massive, right? So how you build out your link profile, my view has always been like you should really make it look the way that Google will want it to look. And if you have one strategy, which is either one of those things, or if you have both of those things, you're building all of your links in editorial content, right? Period. Like if you have a new site, you build 1,000 links like that. It's a matter of time until that becomes worthless, because Google can just look very easily. Like it doesn't need a pattern in a technical sense. It just needs a pattern of no one will get all of their links in editorial content. Like it's not possible, right? So I think you do need to be careful about the types of links that you get. You need like a serious variety of links, and they all need to be like defensibly natural links. There is, of course, a huge place, especially in a large profile, for very purposeful editorial links. I mean, I think if you just look at like, well, what would the basic algorithmic fundamentals be? Obviously, pages that have clout, history, rankings, etc., are going to pass more value, right? If you can make all of this look up and natural. So, I think it's great if there is a service like that. I think it's a type of thing that can be pretty easy to see, and being placed once in a new article that doesn't change over time is a more normal thing to have happen. So, shape out your link profile as naturally as you can. Make sure that the whole thing is not just links that are in articles, more or less. And a variety of things. Like Google would expect some of your links to be on pages that were never indexed before, and some to be on ones that were indexed before. And think through those things and make sure that if you're manufacturing a whole profile, do it safely. If you're a big company and you've got 200,000 linking domains, and you're going to start hammering a category page or two with one type of link, you're probably okay. And either one of the ones that you just asked me about have their place.
Right. Any favorite client story that you would like to share?
A favorite client story. I mean, it's a tough one. We've worked with, I can't tell you how many brands that have sort of started and become extremely large, watched them have gigantic exits, been a huge part of that. We've built out, just like we built sites out to like tens of millions of monthly visitors for enterprises. I don't know. I don't have one that sticks out as like, wow, that one really felt good, but it feels really good every time you really help someone and help them to go far. It also feels great, like every time someone's been working with an agency for 5 years and we take it over and make tremendous progress quickly. And I've got 100 of those too. I would say go to my site. You'll see a bunch of case studies, companies that do let us talk about them. And those are some of the ones that we're excited about. we get more and more every day.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, we will share, the links to your site and case studies as well when we publish the interview. Well, Jimmy, it has been fun talking to you. I know we are, less on time, but, like before we close, I like doing a quick rapid fire. So it'll like, a set of five quick questions. So, I mean, whatever comes to your mind, try answering them as soon as possible.
Okay.
Question number one, describe yourself in three words.
Oh man. Um, Impatient, dedicated, ambitious.
Perfect. If a movie was made of your life, what genre would it be?
Drama.
Good one. Who is your favorite superhero?
Batman.
All right. Are you a morning person or a night person?
Night.
Your costume this Halloween.
My entire family, I have twin daughters, and my wife is pregnant with another set of twin daughters right now. And so she's doing a couple of months, and she's going to be Winnie the Pooh. I'm going to be Christopher Robin, and my kids are going to be um, Tigger and Piglet. So we're going as Winnie the Pooh as a family.
Beautiful. Well, congratulations, for being a
Thank you.
father again. Jimmy, it has been fun, fun, fun having you today. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it. I had a great time as well. Cheers.